Hello everyone and welcome back. In this second video tutorial that directly connects to the first one, we today want to talk about CakePHP 5.x. Right now it's 5.1 and PHP templating and everything around templating that also I helped build a plugin for called templating. We're going to look into font icons for that, as well as in HTML snippets, which are the same, and maybe also some useful tips, tricks, and tools around it. So for this, let's dive right in. I did write a small article about that on my blog, Dereuromark.de, so you can also see about templating and icons in detail. And what we're going to showcase today is basically also written there. And you can see some of the examples on my sandbox. So that's actually live code. So this you can download and run locally, but also you could just click through here, and for specific icon sets you can also look into the available icons and so on. So this is the live demo on the sandbox, available under sandbox.dereuromark.de. Last time we stopped with a basic articles table, and we now want to make those icons instead of texts with a correct title on top of it. So if you hover over it, you can see the title argument attribute actually displayed. Yeah, for this we want to download and install the plugin. So this is going to be our first plugin that we're going to install. Copy pasting makes it a bit easier to just directly put that into our application. Composer require, and there it is. And of course you can directly say when cake plugin load templating. So it added it to the plugins list. If you want to take a look at it, you can do this in here, templating. So we're gonna continue now with installing we're gonna render now the IDE helper again. So if we're inside, composer setup was our command to regenerate the meta files. As you can see, it adds the templating helper and everything around it. So in our application view, we can then add this add helper, and we have our templating helper with also icon snippet. So we can add them now. I will explain later what they are useful for. Let's first go into the template for the articles. So here we have these icons, right? And we want to have this switched. Let me first find out what is actually the icon for it. With Font Awesome 6, you gotta guess a little bit, but it's probably something like view. It does have oftentimes some autocomplete on it. So C, no, glass, no. Eyes, right? Yeah, FRI. That could be it. Let's see how it looks like. Yeah, well, That's a possible icon for view, absolutely. So you can see it's a bit cumbersome to work with the pure stuff and put that into here. And if we do that, which we can now do, oops. So if we put that in here, it wouldn't work, right? Because you will see it will be escaped. So we also need to add escape, not here, but in the third argument, escape title false. And because it has no title attribute, we would also need to add title and then the view here. So yeah, it works. Okay, it's a bit cumbersome though, and wouldn't it be nice if there was an easier way to have all the icons available? So in our case, we have the icon helper we can load here as well. So this add helper templating icon, and just load the icon snippet too, so we only have to do it once. We're gonna run the IDE helper, the annotations all, annotate all. So, aha. Okay, so it already detected that there is an icon helper, and that icon helper needs at least one collection to work. Yeah, makes sense, because yeah, it will now not work anymore if we don't define icon sets for the icon helper. And here we can go into config custom, and we can set an icon set. So yeah, and here we would define a class and a path. The class would probably be a font awesome 6 icon, because we are using the font awesome 6 library in our assets. If you might have seen before, if we go package.json, font awesome version 6. So we want to use that one, but there are like also others available. Feather icon, bootstrap icon, whatever you want to use. And we need a path to that folder. It's probably an asset. And then the question is just, where exactly is it? Where exactly is the font awesome 6 file located? Taproot assets font awesome free metadata. I think we need to use some kind of metadata. That's basically what we need to use. I think this one could work. So we copy the path like that, and we'll see if at least we can now load. Aha! We need to install PHP YAML apparently. It's probably not part of that library right out of the box. Get PHP 8.x YAML. Let's good to know, but we need to have YAML installed. If we want to use a YAML config file, that is. Okay. Are we not using, is it not 8.2? Which one is it? Can we use any other collectors? Controller task, icon render task. Collector, font awesome 6 icon collector. So we can use SVG, YAML, or JSON if we find those meta files as well. So maybe we can use, until we fix the YAML issue, maybe we can use okay, so the all CSS. Aha, sprites. Maybe the sprites on regular, that could work. So it depends on what kind of font we're also using. Is it the regular, is it the bold? So that you have the correct icons parsed. It should auto switch based on the extension. So if it works, it will work. Okay, well, we'll see if it works in a second. For now, it found the file and didn't find any issues with the SVG. Let's hope it can also parse them. For that, we can now run the annotate. First adding those, so that's fine. Composer setup to actually, I think for the composer setup, we're gonna need something still, but we'll see that in a second. For now, we should have the ability to use this icon render, and here now we can say I, because the icon was an I, right? So and it works. Okay, so the syntax got a little bit easier already. We still would need to add manually a title if we have I here. So title would still be view, probably like this, in order for it to be, yeah, not I, but view. So that is still clear. But this is not ideal yet, of course. We don't have autocomplete on it. That's the first thing. So we don't know what icons are available. That we can fix in the IDE helper here, because we can add another annotator on top. So generator, I mean. So here we have a generator tasks config. And in that one, we want to add the icon render task. And that one uses the same configuration that we just set here. So it parses all of the possible icons from that list and should actually give that to us as an autocomplete. So let's see if something is actually now working. If we go into our index, aha, Now we have autocomplete. So that's pretty nice. All right. So that's already the first step. Now, if I say I'm going to use that icon for view related actions, the same way I would probably use, let's try edit here. Edit doesn't even exist. So we're going to need something else for edit. Let me see what edit usually is. Pencil maybe. Pencil? No. Pen to square. Huh. Okay, pen to square could work. Let's see what that actually does once I add a title of edit. Okay. Yep, same issue here. We need to escape this here. Yeah, that's actually the exact icon I had in mind. So cool. Either way, remembering those specific icons can oftentimes be quite annoying, like really figuring this out. So what I like to do is I like to go into our app config icon and add a map. And this map, oh wow, AI is adding stuff. For now, I mainly wanted, I think, view to be mapped to the eye. So the shortcut would work because it's kind of clear that the eye is going to be that. But if we don't want to have too much indirection, we can directly use the prefix of our sets. Remember that you can add multiple sets. So if we have now only font awesome version 6, you can add bootstrap icons and tons of more, and each of them would have one of these things, and they are read in this order. So everything here will be available already without any prefix, and then everything that collides will just be ignored. But you can map anything that you need. So view when edit will be mapped now. Edit was the icon pen square. So let's copy that. So pen square, which means that if I'm going to use now the shortcuts, they should work. So view and edit are my personal shortcuts I'm using for these icons. And if I'm going to my site, they're here. So that works. View and icon are now their own shortcuts. And the same we can do for delete with like trash bin and then mapping that to delete. So you're absolutely free to make this list very long. But speaking, and I think that's the important part. And also, and that's a side effect of this, if you make them speaking to the actual action that you want to have them associated with. So in this case, view, edit, delete, then you don't need the title thing. So you can really just say, I mean, look at how short this now is. View and edit. So instead of this underscore, it's basically just this icon render around it with the icon. And it would automatically create the translated text for it in that camel case or humanized inflectioned word. So that's pretty neat. One thing that is a bit annoying still can be this escape title that you need to really each link, everywhere where it goes in, it needs to have this, otherwise it will be escaped HTML. Which of course makes sense. For security reasons, no HTML string should by default be printed out insecure, or no string in general. And then if it's HTML and you know that it's safe HTML, then you can use that. So, but for our icons, we know that they're safe, right? They're coming from our icon render engine, and there is no XSS or any dangerous stuff in there. So here it would make totally sense to have our own way of actually not having to use escape title. And for that, I want to introduce you to something that is called HTML string. It's an object, a value object, and it's part of the plugin that we just added, the templating plugin. So if you go into the templating plugin, you can see that it has it has also warning, okay, and other useful things. But in general, there is something okay, so it's the interface. It's the interface HTML stringable, and our icons, they implement. Now I have it. Okay, HTML. So HTML is a value object that you can use to mark any HTML as safe for direct output. So in our view, let's go here again. We can PHP. HTML is this HTML this new HTML, and then this is the templating, which is the correct it doesn't show me that directly. The namespace is templating view. So you can see that it's not very user-friendly to use inside of templates right now. Oops, I wanted to use HTML here. So yeah, HTML create, my bad. Okay, I haven't used it manually so far, but here we can say bold text. So we have some bold text now enwrapped in this value object, and of course we can normally print it. So normally printing this is straightforward. So it adds just this HTML directly on the screen. But the idea is that this can also be an HTML object coming from, for example, this icon, or any helper function that you can imagine. So let's say we have this icon render view, and we're passing this in here. So we can call it view icon, right? So okay, that doesn't make no sense because it's already here. What I wanted to showcase, maybe let's comment this out for now. What I wanted to showcase is how you can avoid the part back here. And for this, all your HTML link, post link functions, as well as maybe other helpers, they need to understand this value object being a safe HTML string. For that, let's just override locally our application with the HTML helper. So in our helper, we can add a local HTML helper, which uses the Cake core one. So core HTML helper. Yeah, okay. I'm not even sure if we need the annotation here. So we have now an HTML helper that uses the core HTML helper. And on top, it uses now the helper trait from our templating plugin. And what it does is it adds on top of the types also the HTML stringable, and then knows internally how to switch it off. For the time being, we're first going to make sure that it's going to be annotated correctly. So you see the helper got annotated in our, okay. Let's see if our app view has now, we're using currently the Bootstrap HTML helper. So we probably need to, we need to stop using that and instead manually load the helpers. But in our case, we can use the HTML helper that we have and just extend the Bootstrap UI one. So instead of core, app view, where's our helper? Yeah. Instead of the core, we would go and use the Bootstrap HTML helper. HTML helper from Bootstrap UI as Bootstrap HTML helper. So now we're using the Bootstrap one, but we're extending it locally with our trait. So let's see what -v -d does. Yeah, you can see now it detects that we switched to the app HTML helper. So in our app view, it's now annotated like that. And this, let's look into our trait. It overrides link from path. It also has a nice function now, string, which creates this string we were talking about, this HTML string. So I think that makes much more sense now if we have something like HTML, and we say here this HTML, and because now we have the correct helper annotated, it should have string available here. Yeah, string, and then we can again say some bold text. Oh, it's very shouting now, but okay. And if we use that inside of, let's say, inside of our view, and we take escape false away, it should render this as proper HTML still. And it does. So the bold is visible here and it's not escaped. It also means that if we take our, so this is quite nice. If you have inside of any helpers, you generate HTML, you return it as HTML stringable, and then you can pass it to any method that understands it. And we also would extend the form helper usually here, and maybe page data helper, maybe one or two more. And then you all add the trait for this, and then you can use without escaping. So we take escaping away from those icons because we don't need it anymore. These icons do the same thing internally. They return these HTML stringable object, and that passed into those methods would automatically internally do that. If you cast, it will not work. So you can, of course, always hardcore cast to a string, then it will directly be a normal HTML string again. And then it would need to have the manual part. But now, if everything works correctly, those icons will just work out of the box. So you have the shortest possible way of defining those icons by just saying this icon render. Yeah, passing that instead of that. It also means that if we have a post link here, now all we need to do is, we don't have escape here, you see. All we need to do is we just copy, we add in here, and we either have it aliased with our map, or we hope there is some kind of trash icon. Yeah, autocomplete at least. And it should also work on the post link if that class is overridden. So post should also not be too far, because the post helper itself, yeah, where is our helpers here? New file, also to class form helper, right? We so we use the form helper with a trait, and the trait, if we look into it again, does button, post link, and so on, and quickly overwrites them based on our needs. Is that all? Let's see if it works. Annotate will tell us, because it will tell us the new class, app helper. Yeah, so it's the correct one. So now we have the form helper exchanged, and there we go. So now even deleting has those icons set up. So I usually use that on elements for navigation elements as well. Whenever there are icons involved, I'm creating internally these HTML stringable things and pass them to the corresponding elements where they're going to be rendered using some helper, and those helper calls know how to deal with these kind of HTML strings. Yeah, so I think that concludes this little exercise about how to use font icons, how to use templating. You can create your own additions, of course. The plugin just ships with a few useful things on top that you can use. For me, useful is as well the backend. I'm not sure if it works now, I didn't test it, but there is a backend by default in admin/templating/icons. It does work. Cool. And what it does is it shows you your custom map directly. So what icons are available. It also shows you all available icons in the different namespaces. So right now, the default namespace, so no namespace, are all those icons, because they can't collide with anything else, because we only have one icon set. If you look into the icon sets, there's only our font awesome. We don't have Bootstrap, Feather, and 10 other icon sets available, like we can see on the sandbox. So there is no collision. And also then if you go to conflicts, you will see there are no conflicts. So different sets with the same name do not exist. So you don't need aliasing around them if you need a specific set of a specific icon of a specific set. Yeah, so but this backend can be quite useful to quickly scan through the list and see what is available, if any of those icons do fit or not, if you need to add another icon set or custom icons. So yeah, this is the backend on the templating plugin. All right. I'd say that's it for today's session.